The story begins in the vast expanse of space where a team of NASA astronauts is conducting maintenance on a satellite. Their leader, Kowalski, is a veteran astronaut known for his habit of repeatedly sharing stories from his past. Though initially engaging, his tales have grown tiresome to the crew as he has recounted them numerous times. The satellite they are working on is the STS-157 Hubble Space Telescope, and the team is installing new hardware to upgrade its capabilities. Among them is Dr. Stone, a specialist brought in specifically for this task. It is her first time in space, and the transition from Earth's gravity to the weightlessness of orbit has been challenging. Accustomed to working on solid ground, she struggles to adapt to the unique environment. The team has been working tirelessly on this mission for the past week and is now approaching the final stages of their assignment. As they near completion, Kowalski, ever the conversationalist, asks Dr. Stone what she enjoys most about being in space. She responds thoughtfully, saying that her favorite aspect is the profound silence, the complete and utter absence of sound, a stillness impossible to experience on Earth. Just as they prepare to wrap up their work, a sudden message crackles through their radio from Mission Control. The urgent communication instructs them to abort their mission immediately, detach from the satellite, and return to their spacecraft. Without delay, they are to head back to Earth. The situation takes a dire turn when the astronauts learn that the Russians have destroyed one of their own satellites with a missile. This satellite, an intelligence-gathering asset, was deliberately destroyed to prevent its data from being accessed by others. However, the explosion creates a massive cloud of debris that begins spreading through space at bullet-like speeds. As the debris hurtles through orbit, it smashes into other satellites, creating a cascading effect that generates even more debris. This chain reaction disables countless satellites, effectively crippling the global communication network. The astronauts find themselves cut off from Earth and unable to communicate with anyone outside their immediate vicinity. The crew rushes to retreat inside their spacecraft, but the high-speed debris approaches them with devastating force. Before they can secure themselves, some of the debris slams into their spacecraft and the work panel where Dr. Stone is stationed. The impact destroys the panel, which breaks away and starts tumbling uncontrollably into space, carrying Dr. Stone with it. Kowalski shouts urgently for her to unbuckle her harness, warning that if she doesn't, she'll be carried off into the void forever. Struggling against panic, Dr. Stone manages to release herself from the panel, but by then she has drifted too far from the spacecraft. She finds herself spiraling alone into the endless expanse of space. Terrified, she begins breathing heavily, which rapidly depletes her oxygen supply. As she drifts farther away, her communication link with the rest of the crew is severed. Completely isolated and spinning aimlessly, she fears her life is nearing its end. Just then, through her radio, she hears Kowalski's voice cutting through the silence. He urges her to stay calm and asks for her location. After some time, Kowalski's voice comes through again. He instructs Dr. Stone to activate the light on her suit. Following his guidance, she switches it on, allowing him to locate her more easily. Kowalski then asks how much oxygen she has left. She responds anxiously, saying her oxygen is depleting rapidly and she has only 8% remaining. Using a controller integrated into his suit, a specialized propulsion device that Dr. Stone's suit lacks, Kowalski maneuvers toward her. This allows him to stabilize his position in space and intercept her as she drifts further away. Once he reaches her, Kowalski carefully grabs hold of her and begins guiding them both back toward the spacecraft, moving slowly and deliberately. As they make their way back, Kowalski tells her to set a timer for 90 minutes on her watch. Confused, she asks why. He explains that the debris cloud, traveling at incredible speed, will orbit the planet and return to their location in exactly 90 minutes. The countdown becomes their only measure of the time they have to prepare for the next wave of destruction. While heading back to the spacecraft, they notice another astronaut drifting toward them. Kowalski instructs Dr. Stone to grab him. With great effort, she manages to secure the astronaut, but when she looks at his face, her stomach sinks. A piece of high-speed debris has pierced through his helmet, leaving a devastating wound that proves fatal. The sheer velocity of the debris has turned it into deadly projectiles, capable of tearing through anything in its path. With great effort, Kowalski and Stone make their way toward their spacecraft. However, when they arrive, they are met with devastation. The debris cloud has completely destroyed the spacecraft, leaving it in ruins, and all their crew members have perished. Faced with no other option, Kowalski decides they must travel 1,450 kilometers to the International Space Station, ISS, which may hold their only chance of returning to Earth. As they begin their journey, Stone's oxygen supply continues to dwindle, now reduced to just 1%. At the same time, the fuel in Kowalski's suit propulsion system is nearly exhausted. Despite these challenges, they press on, hoping the ISS will offer a lifeline. When they finally approach the ISS, they discover that it too has been largely abandoned. The remaining crew has already evacuated to Earth, and the station itself is heavily damaged. One of its landing modules is missing, and the remaining capsule's parachute has deployed, rendering it impossible to use for re-entry. Stone suggests they turn back, but Kowalski notices that one of the ISS thrusters might still have enough power to propel them toward the Chinese space station, located 100 kilometers away. Thrusters are small capsules capable of transporting individuals between points in space. Determined to keep moving, Kowalski uses the last of his suit's power to propel both of them toward the Chinese station. However, the maneuver comes at a cost. They lose control of their movement as Kowalski's suit runs out of fuel. Kowalski urges Stone to grab hold of anything they can to stop their momentum. As they collide with the station, the tether connecting them snaps, and neither of them can grab hold of any solid part of the structure. Just as hope seems lost, Stone's foot becomes entangled in a parachute rope, halting her drift. She quickly grabs the broken tether that had tied her to Kowalski. The weight and pressure from supporting both of them put immense strain on the rope, which begins to unravel. Realizing the danger, Kowalski tells Stone to let him go. She refuses, insisting she can pull him back. Kowalski, however, knows the situation is hopeless. If he doesn't release himself, the strain will cause both of them to be lost in space. With a heavy heart, Kowalski unclips his harness and tells Stone to save herself. As Kowalski drifts farther away from Stone, he speaks to her calmly through the radio. "You need to get inside the station," he says, "because your oxygen is nearly gone and you're starting to lose focus." He urges her to board the capsule docked at the space station and use it to reach the Chinese space station, from where she can return to Earth. Stone, desperate to save him, insists, "I'll come for you in the capsule," but Kowalski stops her, saying, "It's too late. I'm too far gone now. Promise me you'll survive." Stone, holding back tears, promises him, "I will survive." Shortly after, their communication breaks, and Kowalski's voice is silenced forever. He sacrifices himself so that Stone can have a chance at life. Determined to honor Kowalski's sacrifice, Stone hurriedly makes her way inside the space station. She removes her helmet and takes deep breaths, finally reviving herself as the oxygen in her suit was almost completely depleted. Regaining her composure, she attempts to contact Matt, their operator, over the radio, but the system fails to connect. Suddenly, the station is engulfed in flames, the fire spreading rapidly. Stone, with great difficulty, reaches the capsule docked at the station and successfully detaches it. However, as the capsule begins to move away, it halts abruptly with a violent jolt. Realizing the parachute ropes are still tangled with the space station, she watches in horror as the capsule is dragged back toward the station at dangerous speed. Taking swift action, Stone carefully controls the capsule to stabilize its motion, preventing a catastrophic collision. She then exits the capsule, braving the perilous conditions, and cuts the tangled parachute ropes. Just as she completes the task, the dreaded 90-minute mark arrives, and the debris cloud makes its way back to their location. With no time to spare, Stone scrambles back into the capsule as the debris swarms around her. Shielded inside, she attempts to ignite the capsule's fuel system to propel her away from the danger, but the engine doesn't start. After a frantic inspection, she discovers the grim truth. The capsule is completely out of fuel. Overwhelmed and terrified, Stone is momentarily paralyzed by despair, realizing her chances of survival are dwindling as she remains stranded in the vast emptiness of space. beautifully highlights